Good morning. Good morning. I am Dorothy Conway, and I will be talking with you all um, concerning a model that is really useful in your classroom teaching. I know you are excited to learn more on how to uh, get the most out of your students in and their learning. So today we're going to talk about the gradual release model and what it is and why it's important. Our goal in this presentation is to provide you with knowledge of how to implement good first teaching. Students actually learn from this good first teaching first time when it's presented, and then you scaffold and build from there. The need for this is to make educators aware of how, if our instruction is intentional, then you will see the learning of students improve. It would yield improved student learning. So our target today is to analyze and demonstrate an instructional strategy to implement with direct instruction. So again, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today has to do with direct instruction. What is gradual release? Well, it is a process that actually occurs in reading comprehension. That's where the research was with reading instruction. We've actually taken it into every subject area. It can be used, of course, with mathematics, and the other subjects are reading subjects, science and social studies. But it was used as the control um, of an activity that moves from teacher to learner. So it keeps the teacher from keeping all of the information and gradually release it and give it to students so they can personalize it and make it their own. This means that when the content is new and unfamiliar, of course, the teacher is the primary source of knowledge, and they are giving the knowledge, and they are responsible for doing the thinking and the heavy lifting. But as learners are presented with the information, well, then they take on the responsibility for it as well. And this is the uh, model over to the right, that if you see that diagram there. And it has the teacher responsibility first, and then eventually, and we'll talk about the categories in the green, the I do it, we do it, you do it together, and you do it alone. So this means you must carefully scaffold your instruction for students. Can you think of a time when you did all of the teaching, you've, you know, given examples, and you've done a wonderful lesson, and then when it was time for students to go ahead and take what you thought was the helm of the lesson now. Okay, now let's see what you know. And no one in the class, or maybe one person, could tell you what just happened. They couldn't really give you any feedback on what they've learned from the lesson. Well, that's why it has to be scaffolded. You have to break it in parts so students will eventually and gradually take on. Because when we teach and then we stop and then we say, hey, go ahead and now you do it, you're throwing everything at them at once, and it's overwhelming. So there are four parts to this model that we feel that are important here. One is focus lesson, guided instruction, collaborative learning, and independent practice. The focus lesson sets the purpose through modeling or inquiry. Okay. So that means you are thinking aloud, you are showing students, okay, the thought processes that goes on as you are presented with new information. Students are provided with information about the ways in which a skilled reader, writer, or thinker process this information. And again, we usually do that through think aloud, and so that students have a model from which to work. Then we move to guided instruction, cues, prompts, okay, that you've thought through as a teacher that, okay, when should I stop and check for understanding? Or uh, who should I call on? How those questions are carefully planned by you. It helps to guide groups of students who have common instructional needs. So students who think along one line, you already know I need to question in that manner. Students who think along another line, you know how to come up with questions for those. And it is an ideal time to differentiate instruction. Students consolidate their thinking during this particular step, which is collaborative learning. Now we have students that can work together. Okay, they have the information. This is not time to introduce new information. Okay, now they can apply what they know. And if you have students grouped heterogeneously, you will notice, okay, everyone can work from their strengths and they can um, bring something to the table that the other person probably didn't hear or overlooked. And then independent practice. Okay, not the same as do it yourself school. Okay, the goal of this is to have students to apply information, skills, and strategies independently. Okay, I know with virtual learning, it has been a lot of, okay, uh, maybe at some schools asynchronous learning and they just give you the assignments. That is do it yourself school. You kind of have to figure it out a little bit. They may have some notes, teachers may have notes, but when you're in class or if you have virtual learning and you're teaching, you can still have independent learning and the strategies that you've presented to students. And independent learning is both a method of learning and a characteristics of learners. Okay. And so we're just going to look briefly at a short lesson. This one was types of sentences. Okay. The I do and all I did was uh, go through the information, presented each, and this is for third grade grammar, presented the types of sentences, and went through each sentence and just kind of explained why the sentence was a question or a command or a statement. Then, as a class, we did this together. I called specifically on certain students to see, okay, did you understand uh, what I just went over? And notice, use the correct punctuation for each sentence. So without the punctuation, they actually had to read the sentence and we collaborated together. You know, I want to ask students to jump in, other students to jump in and help. And had the punctuation marks here so they can choose. On their own, um, they had to take some time, okay, after we did it together and had a few students to work collaboratively. Um, then it was like, now see what you can do on your own with this information. Can you identify, actually apply what you've learned in writing a statement, a question, a command, or an exclamation on your own with the correct punctuation and capitalization. Now, from what was presented even from this presentation, Uh, a time for reflection. I'm going to give you a minute to think about um, what did you understand about gradual release? What did you see? So you need an adjective. We call this AEIOU. Uh, think of one word that describes what you've learned. E for an emotion. How a particular part of this text or activity made you feel. I for interesting. Something interesting about the content. What kind of stood out to you? And O for O. Something that captured your attention. Maybe that you weren't aware of before. And the U for a question about something you learned or want to learn. Now, down to why are we even in this presentation? What is the most important aspects of today's topic? Okay, which is better instruction for higher student learning, okay? Higher student achievement. Why should we even do this? Why do we even want to learn about gradual release? What would be the purpose of that? Well, we all are a work in progress. We all want to know how to uh, better instruct our students so we can help them propel to be excellent or to become more excellent as students. What are your ideas about what it will look like? Now, that's something you would have to think about. Now you reflect, what would that look like in my classroom? How would I be able to actually implement this over time so students can uh, become better learners, become more active learners, and gradually release them and not overwhelm them with information? And lastly, what are the next steps? Because the whole purpose is to take the steps needed in order to become a better teacher and to help our students become better learners. Okay. In conclusion, a gradual release of responsibility instructional framework describes principles and practices that are shared across disciplines. Okay. This is an important concept for teaching all grade levels to ensure student success. So, again, this is a framework that can be used in any subject. Um, and again, back to our last slide, what would this look like in your classroom? Okay. Hopefully, you were able to get some information from this presentation, and we'll follow up another time just to see how things went. Okay. Have a great day.